Well, good morning, everybody.
Morning.
Are you ready, Rhonda? Can you take a roll call? Are you?
Yes, I can. Mr. Hall.
Here.
Mr. Bakley.
Here.
Mr. Dixon.
Here.
Mr. Artisan.
Here.
Mr. Carter.
Here.
Mr. Holsinger.
Here.
Mr. Postles. Mr. Shilo.
He's on his way somewhere.
He's coming.
Ms. Smith.
I'm here.
Okay, we have a quorum.
Okay, I guess we have a quorum. How about that? It looks like we got more people than we normally have. Excuse me. First item of business was the approval of the minutes for the March 28th meeting. Do I have any questions or corrections or anything there?
So moved.
Okay. Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstention? Motion carried. Okay, moving ahead, is there any public comment? None? Oh, you're not public anymore, are you?
Hello, have you just joined the call?
Okay.
Yes.
Great. Are you Nathan?
Yes.
Great. Here. Do you have a presentation or anything that you would like to take over the screen?
Yes, I did. I shared it this morning, but I can also share my screen.
All right, please hold. You sent it to me? I got it.
Okay, we're moving on to 4. I guess you're taking care of this, right? Okay.
Yep, 4 would be Aging Our Way. We have Nathan Lampenfeld from the Aging Our Way PA team. And I will take the floor to Nathan once I all right. I don't know, why is it doing that? You don't want that. I just click that and it's just gonna, yep, it's fine.
You're fine behind you.
Huh?
It's fine behind you.
Oh, it is? Okay, on my screen it's not, my bad. All right, whenever you're ready, Nathan.
All right, can you hear me?
Yep.
Yes.
All right, I can't see the group, but is anyone aware of what Aging Our Way PA is, or should I do a pretty broad overview?
Why don't you give us a broad overview? The staff has an idea, but the board does not.
Sure, sounds good. So Aging Our Way PA is, I don't have control of the button.
Here, if you just tell me when to click. Or you want me to share it with you? Hold on, I might be able to. I don't know.
You can go to the next one.
All right, I am on 2.
So Aging Our Way. One more.
Oh.
So Aging Our Way PA is Pennsylvania's 10-year strategic plan designed to transform its infrastructure and coordination services for Pennsylvania's older adults. We sort of have 6 key traits that we like to highlight here. That plan is necessary and sort of a result of the changing trends in demographics of a rising older adult population, of a more diverse population, and of more frequent disability in our community. So we see these investments and improvements that we've outlined in the plan are very necessary to meeting those trends in the next 10 years. The plan is stakeholder driven, and we developed each of the tactics based on our conversations with older adults, which are Pennsylvania 6 years older, caregivers, families, subject matter experts, and other community members. And we had conversations in every county of the state. We had over 210 total. This plan is collaborative in that we worked with our sister agencies, governor's office to really, as well as community partners, so that would be the area aging network, but to develop and implement those priority strategies and tactics. We consider the plan to be achievable in that each of the tactics included.
I'm so sorry, I want to admit something.
Included is designed to be. They're not just aspirational; they're designed to be achieved and to be measured and to be communicated. Again, the plan is responsive in that over the next 10 years, priorities might shift and things may even add to the plan, similar to what we saw with COVID, where there's something emerging and as large as an issue like that, that will probably make it into the plan at some point. And we've designed the plan so that there's regular intervals for that response. And then finally, effective, we see this as an opportunity for Pennsylvania government to work smarter. Next slide.
Fine. Trying to get you camera access, I apologize.
So I briefly talked about the stakeholder engagement, just some more details here. So we had sort of two components of engagement. Direct engagement, where we grabbed a lot of qualitative information, which we did through listening sessions with our area agents and non-agents. We had 210 listening sessions, at least one in each county, plus 3,600 comments, whether that's from mail, email, any phone calls, anything like that. So overall, about 10,000 responses there. And then from our needs assessment survey, which we held with the University of Pittsburgh, we received about 8,000 plus responses. And that included a random sample survey of 900 older adults that was through random dial phone numbers, and then 7,000 online responses to a web form that was made available. Next slide. You have to call in Jesse. So, sorry, Jesse has a question. We frame these conversations around 8 domain livability to cast a really large net about the different aspects of older adult lives and to really understand what barriers they're facing, what issues they need resolved, and how they can improve their daily life. So this framework developed by the World Health Organization and adapted in the United States by the AARP is designed to be person-centered around individuals' lived experience, community focus, and that is focused on the relationship between one person and community and their quality of life. And finally, evidence-based it's considered the gold standard for age-friendly community development. And those 8 domains are housing, outdoor spaces and buildings, transportation, civic participation and employment, communication and information, respect and social inclusion, social participation, and then finally health services and community supports. We heard by and large that housing was that most of our responses were organized into housing or transportation. But again, a lot of the responses that older adults gave could fit into multiple categories. I think this was designed to just catch those and sort of to facilitate the conversations rather than to organize the responses. Next slide. So sort of the process here was that we collected all that data from the stakeholders, we organized it and synthesized them, analyzed it and synthesized them into 8 reports based on those domains living. We handed that over to our steering committee, which included the 44 members of the Long-Term Care Council, which of course includes Senator Judy Ward, Blair, jurisdiction in Blair County, and she are sort of our lead in the Senate Aging Committee. That also included 39 members of interagency work groups from our other partner agencies, such as Department of Health, Department of Human Services, Department of Labor and Industry, Department of Community and Economic Development, and all others. Then finally, we supplemented this steering committee with some additional subject matter experts, whether that was on transportation, again, dementia friendly and things like that. So the steering committee took this report. They were all, they chose which subcommittee they wanted to be on, and then each of those groups developed a recommendation report with a consultant. And we received those in November. Next slide. Here's just a bit more zoomed out of the process. So we finished that first draft, so following that, those recommendation reports, our team again collected them, and we sort of, because of the overlap between the domains, we had to work in understanding where each recommendation report complemented and where they needed to be dissected. So we did that and developed 5 priorities in our first draft, which we shared with the governor and other offices to get initial feedback and refine our tasks. Then finally, we sort of sharpened that into our second draft and passed it along to people that needed to review it, and we published that second draft for a 30-day public comment period in February. We, since closed that public comment period in March, we've been working again to organize that feedback. So we're a similar process working with our agencies. And now we are looking forward to publishing the final version very soon. Next slide. So the plan is structured in priority strategies and tactics. Priorities are the 5 high-level themes that we've developed based on those recommendation reports. Strategies are sort of how we would approach these priorities, and tactics are the specific and measurable actions. So the 5 priorities, we have unlocking access, which is really about improving long-term services and reports for our most marginalized populations and ensuring that there's equitable access among all populations. Next is aging and community, which has a lot to do with housing, but it's a bit broader, just in general about community life, and it has to do with how we work and volunteer in our communities, how we participate socially, and how we interact with other generations. Next, we have Gateways to Independence, which is exclusively about mobility, and that includes transportation, public transit, personal active transportation. So any sort of way that people get around and are able to live their lives freely. Next is caregiver supports, which is pretty self-explanatory, but it's about support, training, respite, and navigation tools to both the paid caregiver workforce and unpaid caregivers. And then finally, we have education and navigation, which is about sort of how people find information and seek and find and activate information that they need and are connected to resources in their communities. Next slide. And again, the public comment process was very similar. You can do next slide. Yeah, so we had 827 responses total from the public comment period, which included 606 responses from 125 respondents in our online form, and then 221 comments in email, mail, and voicemail. Next slide. And then I just wanted to touch on some of the themes that we heard. So a lot of our stakeholders, the main theme was that there was an exclusion of older adult day living centers and life programming throughout the plan, which are sort of you can consider adult day care and sort of other all-inclusive care program. So we worked to include those partners in tactics as well as make sure they're emphasized throughout the narrative of the plan. There was also an exclusion of incarcerated older adults, so we held a listening session. We did not have any listening sessions originally with incarcerated populations. So as a result, we held a listening session in Phoenix, the state correctional institution, and then we worked on developing the tactic. We had originally had a view about reentry, but not specifically for incarcerated older adults. Next, we had quite a bit more about behavioral health and older adult suicide prevention, so we strengthened up those tactics there. Then there was a bit of concern for next steps and implementation, so we paved up our next step section, which we were planning to do anyway, but made sense based on stakeholder feedback. There were other minor language changes and tactic suggestions, which we sorted through or sort of inventory for future use. And then finally, there were those important concerns for the language and tactic number 113, which was about recruiting refugees and immigrant populations as caregivers. We wanted to make sure that there's no ambiguity, that these would be legal refugees and immigrants, so we made sure to add that language there. Next slide. So the plan we're planning to publish the final draft in this Polar American month, which is May. That'll include also a 2-page executive summary that's a lot more digestible, a lot more interpretable by the general public. So you can just read the entire plan. We'll have a detailed list of changes, and then we'll also include all the public comments throughout the entire process that with some redactions for personal and sensitive information. Next. So, how much time do I have?
You have like about, I'd say 5 minutes. I think you're still good.
Okay, sure. So I just wanted to highlight some of the tactics that we thought this group would really be interested in, mainly because they're about local planning, but also some just locally focused tactics that we thought would be helpful. So we had obtained a statewide AARP age-friendly designation and encouraged more localities to seek out age-friendly community designation. Sort of your bid would be on the age-friendly community piece, which is really not about having meeting certain criteria, it's about developing plans to meet criteria. And we think that, we're really hoping to encourage every county in the state to get that designation. Next, we have create a resource for community partners that guide local implementation of Age in Our Way, and then development of local collaboration efforts. And so this whole process, this MPA, the multi-sector plan for aging, is based on a sort of a blueprint developed by California. And in that, they did a similar guide for local implementation, and they also, a number of counties in their state developed local plans for aging. So very similar to age-friendly community designation where it requires a plan, this is almost mirrored or very complementary, that we think is really helpful to making our community more accessible for older adults. Next, we have create fund community planning and action grants and technical assistance opportunities to coordinate funding and resources for community infrastructure projects such as sidewalk repairs, transit stops, parking enhancements, and lighting installation. This is really about making our community safer, more walkable, and more inviting to older adults. And if I don't know if this group has heard of the Governor's Main Street Initiative, the Department of Community and Economic Development. This is very similar and sort of building on that work there. Next, we have spread the fund share model, which is about shared housing and resource exchange to additional counties and expand the model to populations including veterans and re-entry. This has been a very innovative model that we've seen in other counties, and this is something that we want to spread. We think that more awareness in local planning commissions like Blair's would help move that process along. We had a launch of campaign targeting at local officials regarding housing needs, options available, best practices, and policy models that would allow for diversity in housing options. Again, we heard almost the majority of our comments were related to housing and the lack of affordable, available, and safe, accessible housing. So that's there. And again, another alternative to housing, accessory dwelling unit and the elder cottage housing, obviously ECHO, which requires some local zoning and planning regulation changes usually. So next slide.
All right.
We'll be able to take questions.
I'm gonna turn the camera around so you can see the commission. I apologize for the technical difficulties. You should be able to see most everybody. Is that okay? Do you guys have?
Okay, any questions? Emily, could you escape the presentation so I can see the?
Yeah, I can do it, but yeah, I can. Oh, I didn't even think about that. Wow. There we go. And I see me. James.
So to start, does anyone have any questions?
So does this program encourage grants for sidewalk repairs, parking enhancements, lighting, and that sort of thing? Is that different than what we already do now? Is that something that commonly
So
done
we
in the
see
private sector
We
anyhow?
heard quite a bit that there's a number of Emily, you might have to get back in here and echo.
Oh, I'm so sorry. I don't want to hold that. If you can hear your echo, I'm muted on here. That's weird.
Okay,
Hold on, I will. I don't know why.
it's okay.
You got
I'll
it?
just ignore it.
Okay, I'm so sorry.
Yeah, so we heard that there a lot of local communities have issues with addressing a number of small problems, whether that's, a couple cracked sidewalks, a couple lights in disrepair, maybe a couple streets with overgrowth. And it's hard to, get funding to do just those small projects, but when you lump together a number of small projects, the price tag goes up, and the grants would be focused on that, sort of how communities can plan for the sort of micro project to address community safety and walkability.
Along with that,
And, yeah,
go ahead.
yeah, I was just going to say, I think it probably is very similar to something you see, but it's more focused on, again, those really small products that communities can work together on.
Along with that, something we see locally is, and it's kind of, this would end up being elderly helping elderly almost. You have a sidewalk in front of somebody's house, they're on a fixed income, they're in their, maybe even into their 80s or 90s, they're not going to do it themselves, they can't afford to hire somebody, but the sidewalk needs repaired for the general community good. Would there be funding made available, probably through the community, to help out in those situations where the person who owns the property abutting that sidewalk just can't afford to do it, but it's a missing link in an overall system?
Right, that's sort of exactly what we're trying to
Okay.
address here, is and making sure that, people don't feel trapped in their homes because they can't, use the sidewalk or use their stairs and things like that, which is something we heard a number of times. And there was even, in this is Philadelphia County, but one older woman who used a wheelchair said that she felt trapped in her home because the sidewalk to the bus stop was completely cracked and gated and completely unsafe to use. And that's something that we do not want, and I know social isolation is becoming increasingly, more people are aware of sort of the negative effects of following the Surgeon General's big sort of report, but that's definitely something that we're hoping this plan addresses.
I think that's one of the positives of the pandemic is I think we all realize the negative effects of isolation.
It seems one of the things that, I guess one of the hot button issues in any of the small municipalities in this area is sidewalk maintenance. And the fact that it's usually the homeowner's responsibility or the landlord's responsibility and not the municipality. And so it's very hard to get a program to do sidewalks because, to be honest, there's just a lot of resistance to either from the homeowners or the landlords or whoever. They don't want to do it.
Right, and we wanted to be able to give, so with that grant program, we wanted to be able to give some flexibility because, with the sidewalk, sometimes it's a municipality and sometimes it's an homeowner, and it can vary from, curb to curb, essentially. And so with those grants, it's not, we're targeting municipalities that can do a swath of those were like micro projects, I call them, but also they'd be available for community organizations. If a neighborhood sort of wanted to get together and say, we can do this repair for an older adult, but we just need a little bit of money for concrete. So that's sort of why we want to get flexibility outside of some of the existing grants that are pretty rigid as to the recipients.
So in a community that has a majority of sidewalks that are in disrepair, would that disqualify us from being an age-friendly, giving us an age-friendly designation? I mean,
So it wouldn't disqualify you. So sort of the main aspect of that designation is a plan and application where we may not be age-friendly now, and we, even as so this version, for example, they're not considered as to be age-friendly, but they're sort of a plan, sort of goal that they want to meet. So it's more about the moving the needle rather than actually being rather than meeting criteria. So
And I
generally
think
based
a
on
little bit more to that, if you want.
sure.
Yeah.
Hi everybody, I'm Jesse. I'm Nathan's colleague, so I was having some trouble with my audio at the beginning, and wasn't able to introduce myself. I'm the executive assistant, providing support to Nathan and the rest of the team. One of the things that I'm doing right now is working on the state level age-friendly designation application. And yeah, like Nathan is saying, it doesn't necessarily require, there's no set of criteria that you have to meet. But one of the steps of any age-friendly community application is to do kind of a high-level inventory of the age-friendly programs and infrastructure and things like that that are already in place in the community. And those places do once you start to look for them, usually people are surprised by how much they're already in to build on. And one of the benefits of joining as an age-friendly community is access to a wider network of that provides toolkits and resources, and also like shared grant opportunities and things like that. So one of the initiatives that this is all the age-friendly communities network is coordinated through AARP, and one of the toolkits that they have is called a walk audit, and it's community participation advocacy activity where people go out and they audit the sidewalks and identify places that need to be fixed. So it's a good way to increase engagement about the issue and also to generate support for applying for grants.
Has there been any studies? Is there economic benefits to being an AARP age-friendly designated community?
That is a great question, and I can follow up with an answer, but I don't know offhand.
I don't know that there's research, but I would, logically, the more people that engage with their communities and, actually patronize stores rather than getting everything delivered, things like that, it would make sense that it would have an economic benefit, but I don't know that there's empirical research.
The designation specifically, I'm not certain, but I do know that, for example, in the 10-year strategic plan for economic development that was just put out at the state level, I think there's some data points contained in that plan regarding the economic benefits of accessibility that the administration face.
So would we get a little sign like, Tree City USA? Would we get an AARP, sign in front of our town? I'm just is that a good
I
thing?
mean,
I think it would certainly be something to tout that you're age friendly, that, especially if, in 10 years, by 10 years, I guess, a third of our state population will be older adults. I don't know the Blair specific numbers, but that's a pretty substantial.
Yeah, we might actually be higher than that.
Yeah, I think
Pretty
so.
fast.
I'll look at this.
We might be there, but we might be at a third by now.
I also, I know I'm not the commission, but I think it's important to note that these things also apply to people with disabilities. And I feel like a lot of the time, Blair County, people don't recognize how many services and how many opportunities we have for people with disabilities, including like work. So I think it also touches on that part of our population as well.
That's a great point, and we had some limitations based on the executive order of how we could include and represent people with disabilities in the plan, sort of explicitly. However, when as we age, acquiring a disability comes with time, and when we improve our systems and community for older adults, and that includes older adults with disabilities, it's sort of universally accessible. It becomes more accessible for everyone. Sort of the goal there.
This goes down a whole nother rabbit hole, which we won't be able to explore fully today, and I don't have intent to do that today. We would be interested in the couple programs you had mentioned about with housing. The city is undertaking a complete rewrite of its codes. It'd be good to get some of those concepts over to them, the city of Altoona, so that those concepts can be included. I don't believe the current code would accommodate. I'd be surprised if it could accommodate even 20% of what those programs, at least my understanding of them, are proposing. And I'm aware of at least 2 other jurisdictions within Blair County that are looking to update their code. So that's exciting for me because housing has been identified as a need here. And it's not necessarily lack of low-income housing, it's the missing middle, and that's the new buzzword. But a lot of that missing middle also includes aging in place, where I've been in this house for the last 50 years. My husband and I built it back when we first got married, and and I don't want to leave, and those types of issues going on. And so how do I maybe bring my children back, or one of my children back, and he's now married with his own children, and we'll put a little apartment on the back or whatever. And a lot of that stuff, there's that traditional way of doing it from the 80s and 90s that doesn't necessarily work now, that I think some of those programs help.
Right, exactly. And definitely, almost unanimously older adults want to live in their homes or at least their community. So that's why we like these aging communities. Sometimes it's downsized into a house a few doors down. Other times it's moving into a senior apartment. But also, most of the time it's people want to adapt or make changes to their home that enable them to live in it safely and, without restriction. So definitely agree there. And we would be happy to be a resource, especially for the ADU and ECHO code changes. Those are just wonderful programs. And it's really, we've seen people very satisfied with those types of living arrangements.
We are pushing up against
them.
them.
It's very exciting to hear that the codes are going to be updated because it's going to be really important in the coming decade and beyond to make space for these kinds of more creative solutions and unorthodox solutions. And I also wanted to make a note that in addition to building new durable housing solutions like EUs and ECHOs, which ECHOs are a very exciting and we can talk about ECHOs all day, but in addition to those durable housing resources, the share programs that Nathan highlighted on the previous slide, as well as some of the other housing programs through the Department of Aging, they allow for the sharing and expansion of existing housing resources through shared housing programs where people live with people outside of their immediate family. And I would just flag that sometimes local zoning codes don't allow for people to live, for a certain number of unrelated people to live together. So that would be another thing that would get into it as well.
Right. Yeah, some of our codes are still like that. I think most of our local codes have overcome that limitation.
That's great to hear.
Yeah, but yeah, it would probably be a good idea to do an audit on that and check it out. Yeah, I think we're up against time here, so.
Yep.
Anybody else?
Is there any other final? Go ahead. Cool.
I just want to say thank you for having us. It's been, we really wanted to be able to actually talk to local communities. This was the perfect opportunity for us. So thank you very much for having us. And let us know if you have any questions. I'll share our information.
Yes, absolutely.
We'll definitely be in touch. So thank you.
Thank you for your.
Thank you.
Great day.
All right, I guess we've lost everything again. Huh?
Yeah, and
Okay.
now I'm getting the black screen of death. If we need a new battery, we've shut down blue screen thing. Yeah, so it's restarting. It's probably because I just moved it the wrong way.
Okay.
Here.
Well, let's. I guess as we can move on.
Down to 6.
Let's do that. We'll
Well, I
get back.
have the presentation. Is it just not that?
You said it to you. It's up.
Maybe she's right there.
Maybe just sit there and do it instead
Okay,
of on the
I'll
podium
sit-
this time.
I'll sit-
Tech-
Oh, let me just grab my
technology is
notes. I'm not
wonderful
gonna
when it works.
move too much. I apologize for the technical difficulties.
Well, there's not a whole lot we can do
I
about
didn't go too bad for our first time trying to jury rig this together. So.
it.
Wait, what's that?
I said this didn't go too bad for the first time I was trying to jury rig something like this.
Oh,
together.
Yeah, I made an effort, and I
I
had
see
great
some
support
rules.
from the rest of the team and Crystal and Nate. Why teams? I don't want you.
The only comment I would make is that some of this looks like when you talk back when they're talking about sidewalks and things of that nature, and accessibility, walkability, and that. We saw that when they started doing streetscape, and there was a lot of pushback from residents, not people, because their street wasn't being done and other people's streets was being done. You know, and somebody was getting something paid for that they were gonna have to pay for themselves. So that's gonna be an ongoing type issue.
And has been.
As far as, I'm not sure how many people feel comfortable, you know, with multiple, living with unrelated people. I know that's an issue. I know the only place that I know that really enforces that stringently around here that I'm aware of is State College, and they do it because they have this large student population that they don't want. You know, they have a square footage requirement on how many people can be in an apartment and whether they can be related or not. And so that's because they've got this huge student population they've got to house. And so I don't know whether Altoona has anything of that sort because of Altoona campus or not, but I know over there that's an issue. But I'm not sure how enthusiastic, you know, a
Right.
bunch of elderly people that we can get is gonna fly.
That's fine, yeah.
Nursing home or assisted living is one thing, but to go out and do it on your own with, say, 3 friends or 4 friends, that's a whole other issue. And I don't know how that flies. All right, I guess, are we ready? Looks like we're there. We can move on. Moving to item 5 on the agenda.
So we received the Culp Family Dairy Expansion Development Plan, and it is located along Cove Mountain Road. The proposal for an expansion of the Culp Dairy Farm along Cove Mountain Road, expansion will consist of 3 new buildings, a 10,800 square foot hay and equipment storage building, and 2 17,920 square foot calf barns. Gravel driveways will also be constructed leading into the new structures, and a concrete tank will be constructed for stormwater management. No parking areas are proposed, but you know, as it's a private dairy farm, no public parking should be necessary. There is no change in the front lot, the lot frontage, and it will. Hold on, I'm so sorry. We don't anticipate any negative impacts on the local transportation system because of the frontage not changing, and we don't expect the structures will generate a significant amount of additional peak hour vehicle trips. Additionally, as you can see with the red line that I've included visually, just so you know, this location is part of the federal aviation regulation, Part 77 airport hazard area. So with our review though, as long as the construction of these structures is within the airport area, requires the consultation with PennDOT, and possibly the FAA, everything, we are not expecting that these structures will be a hazard to the air traffic. The developer is required, obviously, to complete the forms and submit to PennDOT as well. Let's see. Environmentally, the review of the nature features or natural features in this location reveal the presence of the 100-year floodplain and prime agricultural soils and portions of the site. Fortunately, none of the features should be a concern since the proposed structures will not be located within the special flood area, and the structures are for an agricultural-related business. And this site is located within the Frankstown branch of the Juniata River watershed, but the post-construction stormwater runoff rates have been calculated to be included in the post-construction stormwater management report to be lower than pre-construction rates due to the proposed stormwater management controls for this site. So with that, you can see here this is an aerial view of the farm as it is now. I mixed up properties. You're gonna see here that we have a barn, and I believe the storage, 2 different storage barns here. And you can see here that there is gravel driveways that are for access that will be added on. Do you have any questions? Comments, concerns? I said I can write down to look into for you.
Okay. So, So I guess the staff recommendation is that the proposed additions and.
Oh, yes, they are within,
They are.
I apologize. In summary, we do find the proposal to be consistent with the countywide planning effort, as presented in Alleghenies Ahead.
Okay. Are there any questions concerning any of this? Linda, you're the expert in that area.
Ben,
Are there any?
I had a question about the 100-year floodplain. They are my neighbors. And it's due to the drainage in front of the barn.
Okay.
Because when you're in the floodplain, that's a big deal.
Yeah. Well,
Okay.
Alright, so are we moving on?
Is that what those barns? What are they open structure type things where it doesn't really matter if
We
you
have
have
a
water
lot
on the
of
floor?
calf hutches now, if you've ever drove now, they'll be in the barn.
So
And then
if
The other
flood,
one's
it's
for
just-
hay or fodder or something else.
So there would be some damage with the water.
It would be very nice for them.
Marinated veal.
It's right in back of the milking barns.
All right, if there are, so are there any other questions or concerns? If there are no, I'll entertain a motion to approve the staff recommendations and actions concerning item
So
5 of the agenda.
Second.
Okay. If all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carried. Okay, moving on.
Item 6.
Farm.
So, as Larry mentioned earlier, we have another farm, which is the neighbor of the previous farm. I don't know how many miles apart they are though.
A lot.
Yeah, I mean, he had mentioned that it was still part of the,
They're
What
on
was the
two
word?
separate ends of the cove.
so I noticed in the map that it still is within FAA, but it
Yes.
went only
The airport's in the middle.
right. And so the map I was telling him earlier, it went, but it wasn't like really fast. I mean, so I wasn't sure how close, but he thought maybe they were super close. So I apologize for the misinformation. The Blair County Planning Commission is in receipt of the Pleasant View Farms development plan located off of Pleasant View Farms Road. The proposal is for a construction of an 88,200 square foot freestall barn on the grounds of the existing Pleasant View Farms. In addition to the proposed barn, there will be associated gravel driveways, infiltration bases, and grass areas are also being proposed. Access to the site will be through a proposed gravel driveway connected to 2 gravel pads on either side, just for your visual awareness in a second, which will connect again to Pleasant View Farms Road and I think an additional gravel driveway that already exists. The proposed gravel driveway should provide adequate access to the new barn. As I stated previously, there are 2 gravel pads on either end of the barn that connects the 2 pads through the gravel driveway. The construction of a new freestall barn on this site has the potential to generate additional traffic, but as we said previously, as this is like a private farm, we do not anticipate any additional peak hour vehicle trips, and we do not anticipate any significant negative impacts on the local transportation system. Environmentally, the review of the natural features at this location has revealed the presence of prime agricultural soils on portions of the site. And as this site is also located within the agricultural security area, none of the features should be a concern since the proposed structures will not be located within the special flood hazard area.
What?
I don't like, sir, because there is no. Okay. Additionally, this site is located completely within a federal aviation regulation, as we said earlier. I also kept that line in for you, so that would be, oops, that's the pen. So that would be, as we said, the opposite side of the cove, still within there. But based on the location, as I said previously with the last, we don't expect that the structure will be a hazard to air traffic. And however, the developer is required to follow through.
Okay, just for general information, the regulation for for the security zone for the aviation, is that primarily a height restriction?
Yes.
Yeah.
Height and light,
Height and distance from the
height and
runway.
light,
Huh?
height and light,
Height and light.
Height and light.
in order to
Light.
distract, yeah. Basically, they create a bowl about 500 feet above the runway surface, and nothing can poke into that bowl. So you're on the eastern or the western edge of that bowl on that arc.
So you're
The
not,
other one is on the
you're
eastern
not
edge.
very, it's primarily a height
Yeah,
restriction.
at this point, that line is probably representing something like 1,500 feet above runway level. So I don't
We're
think
not
they're
building
gonna-
any towers
No.
that tall up there.
No. And I'd have to look at the map to see what the actual number is, but yeah, you're gonna be well.
What
up
is
there.
it, 1,500?
I don't know what it is. I'd have to look at the map
I know,
because it's based off runway height.
right.
And distance.
And like the
and
bowl for
probably
the
in
Blue
distance
Knob
from-
Airport actually intersects terrain because the mountains come up right behind it.
And what you have to understand that it's all different lengths depending on heights,
Mhm.
not lengths, heights depending on where you are in the cove.
Yeah, because usually when I look at a runway and I look at things for the aircraft design and stuff, it's usually, a clearance height for what you need on a takeoff roll to clear a 50-foot.
When they do the
50 foot.
circle, they go right over that, they go right over the top of our silos, so they go down they go the big circle, they go right over all the farms.
Mhm.
So you can't have anything.
Right.
You can't have anything that's gonna distract that, and you have to watch the light,
For Culp, I think it might be 700 or 800 feet.
Yeah,
right? I would think the other one would be higher,
Yeah.
much higher,
Yeah.
depending on where you are. It's crazy.
Yeah.
It is. There's a lot of regulations to that.
Regarding light, are they talking about like?
you can't have stuff that
illuminated
distracts.
Parking lots, like.
You
parking lot
cannot
lighting?
You're supposed to
use
show it
a,
down, no strobes.
Is that,
things like
what are
that.
they called? Oh,
What
not a
about
zone. You know, the fly around.
your
Drones. No, what?
A drone.
A drone. I couldn't think of- We had drones up maybe 3 years ago taking pictures of the corn, and all of a sudden it just down. They have control to just, you have to go and get a permit or, to use that. It was the strangest thing because we were over in that one field over by the culp where they're going to build, because our land is right beside theirs, and it's just like flat down. We're looking
You're
around.
done.
We're looking around because if you want to, they do use those drones now. If you're going to spray by helicopter or whatever, if you want to take pictures for precision planning or anything like that, mostly precision planning. It's very interesting, but don't put them up around the airport.
Anywhere.
All right.
Anywhere. Well, you have to don't you have to have permits for that? I don't.
I think they probably require a permit for it, and then they put it out on a NOTAM or something.
Yeah.
The one guy that does all the stuff for Central, all the sports things, he
Yeah.
has a drone,
Yeah.
and he could do the paper mill, but the other side of the road where the
No.
brewery and everything is,
Yeah.
he wasn't allowed to fly, he said. Said, "How
He's
would
probably
they
not
know?"
allowed to fly at Central High School either.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. All right, well, that was kind of a side trip, because I just didn't know
It's interesting.
what they were, how stringent they were. I know that there's probably, from the flight standpoint, as far as the pilot's concerned, he's probably just worried whether he's gonna hit anything, or
Mhm.
whether he's got something sticking up there that he's gonna hit when he makes his approach.
Oh, sure.
So, all right, moving ahead, is there any other questions, or we haven't, and so basically the plan, this has been found
Yes, it
consistent
is.
with the county comprehensive plan.
Yeah, there it is.
So the barn is going to visually be like right around here in the next slide.
That's Dale Sonberger sold it to him.
So this is a zoom out of what I just showed you. And then here is a close up of said barn. So you can see here are the two proposed gravel paths. They do connect to the existing driveway, and they do connect here as well. This is the proposed freestyle path. And there is a gravel driveway that connects around, that already exists.
Moving, is there any questions? If there are not, I'll entertain a motion to approve the staff actions and recommendations for item 6 of the agenda.
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Abstentions? Motion carried. Okay, item 7 is those things, these are the ones that don't rise to the level of a review for the board like the previous two. They're more ones that are handled at a staff level and are things like lot splits and divisions, subdivisions, things of that nature. They're kind of routine. So these are ones that get sent to board members and by email for your review, comments, questions. So if there are any questions concerning any of these items on this list, now's your time to ask them. If there are no questions or comments, I will entertain a motion to approve the staff actions for item 7 on the agenda.
So moved. Second.
Okay, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carried. Okay, moving ahead. Back over. We're now down to item 8 of the agenda. This is the same sort of thing that we just talked about in item 7, where this is staff level reviews that are not necessarily rising to the level of needing a full review by this board, but are things of letters of support for applications to various state agencies. And I will say that that is one of the things that a lot of times when agencies submit applications for funding or grant applications, that these letters of support are one thing that the state seems to listen to look for. So if there are any questions, these got sent to us by email. If there are any questions or comments concerning any of these applications or letters of support that were sent, now is your time to ask them. If there are no questions or comments, I will entertain a motion to approve the staff actions and recommendations for item 8 on the agenda. Do I have a motion?
Larry.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carried. Moving ahead. I guess, Dave, this is all yours.
Brave update, continue to plug along. The public outreach, we're simply down to a survey that is now out there. We do have paper copies for people who are technophobes for whatever reason, but there is a link on the Brave update part of our website. You can go on there and go through it. Basically, what hazards have you faced? How do they impact you? And then a number of questions, since capacity is coming up as a major issue. There's a number of questions on capacity, not only emergency preparedness, but also just general municipal capacity questions that are being presented just for some feedback. That is open for another couple of weeks, at which point we'll close that down and start integrating all that into the new updated plan. So, but that's out there. If you know anybody, get the word out. We'd like to see some feedback from the general public. That's above and beyond what we've already done, and we're also open to open feedback too. If somebody wants to ship us an email, stop in and have a discussion, or stop us on the street. That's fine. We're open to that as well. But we're coming down to the end of the public outreach section of the plan. We're going to scramble to get it all into a document and get that around for FEMA and PEMA approval and finally municipal adoption. So that's basically where we are. That's going to also lead into stormwater management. We're getting ready to do that as well. I mentioned that earlier. So the one's going to ramp up as the other sort of starts to fade.
Okay, I guess you kind of have the next one too.
Yeah, next one, we did not go to the APA conference this year. I only go every few years because it's the same thing over and over again. Wes is signed up for the virtual conference. Wes is our only certified transportation planner in Pennsylvania. It's a sub of the AICP certification. He chose to do that it's probably been about 10 years ago now. So he has some credits he needs to get, and they're available at the virtual part of the conference. So he'll be taking some time, putting some headphones on and staring at the computer for a couple of days there, a couple of weeks. But pick up those credits and maintain that CTP and general AICP as well. So that's coming up. One thing we do need action on, hiring is generally under my purview. However, to engage some of the things we need for employees, most direct right now, getting her a purchasing card, they want to see a vote that hires and sets a salary. So I do need a vote to formally acknowledge that Emily is the community planner at a salary of $40,000.
I move. Second.
Are you the sole interview person?
You're welcome to sit in, but
No,
yeah,
I just
generally-
didn't know. I'm just asking.
But generally, yes. No,
When you
yeah,
said
but-
that, I didn't know.
Well, that's the answer. It's
I didn't know whether
generally
the
yes.
exec board did it or whether you.
No, no,
Now, generally, we function like a school board, right?
Okay, yeah, that's,
You're
I just
in
didn't know how
the
you
sense
did it.
that you-
That's
that
fine.
we're-
Yeah.
We're responsible for what Dave does.
right,
We tell him what to do,
right,
and he's supposed to do it.
okay, and he does.
And he does, for the
Okay.
most part.
I just
So,
wondered.
but under that level, the day-to-day administration of the board, which includes hiring and firing.
Well, it's not exactly like the school board, we do interview.
Yeah, I know. But, but only for, you don't, do you interview individual teachers?
If you wanna go, just like he asked me.
Okay.
Just like he said to me, we're not gonna,
You're
just like his first response was.
Yeah, it's available.
Yeah.
But
But
You're
it's
right.
not-
as a general rule,
Yes,
yeah, in the number of years I've been doing this,
Yes,
I
you've
think
done it.
twice
Yes.
somebody else has shown up.
I just
I
wanted-
say it's the same sort of thing. It's he's responsible for the hiring
and then we verify, yeah, I get it, okay,
But again, if you want to sit there, that's fine. Yeah, you're welcome.
okay,
Or even participate.
no, I don't want to. I just wondered what the procedure
It's the
was.
same sort of thing. And it's the I look at it as trying. I look at what I'm trying to do. What I'm trying to do here is I try not to micromanage the review.
Right,
That's the thing that I don't want.
And one thing I try to avoid doing, my interview, and when I was at Massachusetts, staff interviewed first. It was a 2-level interview.
right,
So they interviewed first, but then that board wanted their fingers on all the employees. So it was at a public meeting. The room was packed with public, the board up front, and it was like, how do you dress for this and all like that? I'm there. They had me in a holding cell, so to speak, because they don't want to overlap the. They
didn't want you to hear it.
Yeah, so I'm there, the secretary comes over to get me because I'm next, they want to keep the meeting move, and I'm in basically a jacket, I think I might have had a tie, I was more than casual, but not full formal. And the applicant ahead of me, she comes out, she's in like an evening gown, I thought she was in a prom. And I'm like,
She wanted
oh
to-
my goodness, what on earth? And I walk in and the board's dressed similar to what we have here, and I'm like, I'm
wear your
walking
tux.
into this thing expecting to see a board like in 3-piece suits and tuxedos and all that, which,
Thank you.
but it was subject to the board and the entire public, and I'm like, that's an uncomfortable feeling.
Okay. Moving ahead. Okay, did we vote on that? We did.
No, we need to vote.
Okay, do I had a we had a
I
motion and a second.
Second.
All right, so now I need to, I guess we have a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions, motion carried. Okay, I didn't make sure I didn't. I have a habit of doing that, moving ahead too fast. Next item that we have is the commissioner liaison form, but since the commissioner isn't here, there is no liaison today, so that one's off. Item 12 is this is the opportunity to for the board to vent their frustrations or whatever, and see if they have any questions for Dave or anything that's going on. Are there any questions from board members? Comments?
Should point out Mackenzie is staying on part-time,
Okay.
at least until we get her replacement on board, since it seems to be a little difficult getting employees connected to jobs these days. So she'll be on
Here for a
a
while.
few hours a week, helping primarily with hazard mitigation. So she's still hovering back here.
Well, let me say that before we go. I'm sorry to see you go, Mackenzie, but I understand why. It's just not the, I don't want to see you go, but I know why. So, all right. Moving ahead. Walt.
I've got everything I need.
Oh boy.
That's scary.
Oh, that's scary. That is. All right. We have a list of upcoming events. And the only other thing we have is the next meeting is for May 30th for us here. If there's no other items of business, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Wait a second.
Second.
We're out of here. Thank you.